Do you ever find yourself with a leftover steak you just don't know what to do with? Me neither. Not really an issue that any of us have probably, but that doesn't mean you shouldn't make this steak sandwich because it's absolutely delicious. It's probably my favorite steak sandwich of all time. Let's get stuck in. First things first, we need to make romesco. Well, and is it traditional romesco? I think it's pretty close. I think the only thing that's really missing from traditional, and I could be wrong, I'm sure someone will let me know in the comments, is I think it's often thickened with bread, romesco, and I just sometimes I don't think we need to add any more bread, but I got a couple of red capsicums or bell peppers, depending on where you are in the world, and they just went into a really hot oven for like 20 minutes. And we're just gonna break them open. I then I put them in a bowl, covered them with plastic wrap, and that kind of steams them. And pull the stem out, and then the skin should just peel off. Then that goes to a blender. And we'll do the other one. And then we'll put some other things in there. It's very descriptive, Andrew. Some other things. So into that, we're also going to put like 2 cloves of garlic, just raw garlic. Don't panic, you won't. It's not super strong. 2 cloves will be fine. If you are very sensitive to garlic, just 1 will do. Whole toasted almonds. We've got some red wine vinegar. Now I've got a slippery hand. I can't open the red wine and vinegar. There we go. Couple of tablespoons. The peppers are quite sweet, so you need the acid to help along with that. And then about 3 tablespoons of extra virgin olive oil. And that's it pretty much. We're gonna blend it, and that's gonna be our sauce. That's a lie. I lied to you. That's not it. Salt, of course. Nice pinch of salt. We'll get this all blendy. And then I'm going to show you the next thing, which I think makes this steak sandwich next level. Let's have a taste. Now, our peppers weren't super red, so the romesco is not super red. Well, that's delicious. It's like nutty and sweet from the capsicums. Super good. Could be a little bit thicker, to be honest. Which is, I guess, where the bread comes from. Luckily, I have some. Just gonna put a little bit of bread in here and blitz that again for a bit. I want it quite thick, this sauce, but you want it to be quite acidic, punchy, seasoned well. Yum. One last taste. I've double dipped. But that's okay, because that is delicious. Right, we're going to pull that to the side, and then we're going to start making one of my favorite things in the world. And something I found out that a fellow Kiwi musician also has a good love for, and had a whole Instagram page dedicated to it. The famous singer from West Auckland, Lord, had an Instagram page which is still active. It's still around, I don't think it's active, all about onion rings. So we're going to make some. We're making a steak sandwich coincidentally for Lord. She doesn't know that. Well, of course she doesn't. She doesn't even know who I am. But romesco made. Onion rings. I've got some oil here. We want to get that to about 180 degrees and no hotter, and that's already there. So we're going to turn that off and let that come down a little bit. So what I call a brown onion, I think in the US you call it a yellow onion, and I want pretty thick rings. So what's that, 1/2 centimeter? Then we'll make a batter. And I reckon the onion rings work really well because of the bread that we're going to make this with. We'll talk about the bread in a second, but I reckon that this is what gives it like really good texture. I think sandwiches are really, you know, it's all about texture. So thinking about how all the components work together, not only from a flavor perspective, but also a texture perspective is really important. These onions are really tight. They don't want to come apart very easily. So pull your onion rings apart. I don't know why that's so tight. And then the batter, we are going to use basin flour. So basin flour is chickpea flour. It works really well. I didn't discover, I was definitely not the person that discovered basin flour, but I first started using basin flour in London a long time ago. And it's used a lot, especially in like Burmese cooking randomly. Well, not really randomly. I think it's because the Spanish, I could be wrong. I'm going to stop talking about facts I don't know because the internet needs less of that. But basin flour is used a lot in Indian cooking as well, and it's really great for like making, you know, batters and stuff. It goes reasonably crispy or quite crispy, and it has a much better flavor, I think, in a batter than like a wheat flour. Wheat flour is pretty neutral as far as flavor. I think a basin flour has a lot of good flavor. So what is basin flour? It's chickpea flour. So it's ground up chickpeas. Lost me rubbish bin. There it is. So I've got the basin flour here. Oh! Didn't expect that to happen. And then we're just going to use water until we have our batter the consistency of sort of paint, if that makes sense. I don't know how many people are painters here. Any painters in the chat? So we're just going to whisk this through. It shouldn't take too much to kind of make a batter. And then we've got some rice flour that we're going to dust our onion rings in first. You could use plain flour for this as well. I just find it's better to use a different flour than the basin flour for the dusting. I think it sticks better. Need a little bit more water, and it'll hydrate slowly too. So you'll find it'll be fine, and then you might make your batter and then leave it for a minute. You'll come back and it's like a lot thicker. That's just because the basin flour, or any flour anyway, will over time hydrates and will thicken a little bit more. So that's looking pretty good. You want it one consistency. You don't want it at the moment. I can see that the water's kind of sitting to the top, so it's not like super homogeneous. You really want that one consistency, and like I said, like the thickness of paint, or like pouring cream is another good kind of reference. You don't want it too thick, or you're going to end up with a really thick kind of coating on your onion ring, which isn't a terrible thing, but yeah, there is such a thing as too thick. Okay, pinch of salt in there, pinch of salt in our rice flour, and some white pepper in our rice flour as well. Decent amount of it. That's an annoying noise. Give that a whisk. Now you can, if you were making like an onion bhaji, or like you wanted to do this for like a, you know, you wanted a bit of spice in here, you could easily put some spice in this basin flour to kind of flavor it some more, or you can kind of leave it plain like we're going to do today. The reason for this, that we're going to leave it plain today, is we've got a lot of other competing flavors, mainly coming from our romesco, and we still want to taste our steak and our rocket. So we're going to leave just with a little bit of salt and pepper. So onion ring gets a dusting, doesn't need heaps. Flip it over on all sides. I'm going to turn the heat back on our oil now, and we're just going to do a few at a time. So in there, into our basin flour. and into the hot oil. Now they won't take super long to cook. Probably about 3 or 4 minutes max. You know, we want to cook the onion, but we don't need to doesn't need to be super soft. All right, I'm gonna cook the rest of those. We'll pull them out. As soon as we pull them out, we're gonna season them with a little salt. Then we'll have a little clean down and we'll assemble the sandwich. Time to assemble. First we need to talk about bread. I think it's one of the most underrated parts of a sandwich. Thought about, well, maybe not necessarily, but I think it's very, very important that you get the bread right. So for a steak sandwich, you've got to think about what you've got going on here. We've got steak, which has got chew to it, right? Like it's got bite. We've got crunchy from our onion rings, and then we've got, you know, the crisp rocket, and obviously our sauce. I think this focaccia is the best thing to do. So this is my focaccia recipe. It's on my website. It's also, there's a video about it below. And I'm also a big fan of like doing like bigger format sandwiches. So this is more than enough then for 2. Open that up. And the texture is important because you kind of want to, when you're eating steak with chew, when you bite down, you need to be able to bite through it and not, if you do pull a piece of steak out, you're not, you know, it's not because you can't get through a piece of sourdough or something like that. I love sourdough, but I don't think it makes great sandwiches often. So then the steak, I like to use sirloin or New York strip, depending where you are in the world. I think the fat to lean ratio is good in it. You do have a big fat cap along the top. The way that I carve it, so I'm going to carve it straight down in strips. So the only part that you might, even if you haven't rendered your fat very well, this one's pretty good. You're only going to get a little bit of fat and sinew in one spot. So it's fine in your sandwich. If you carved it the other way or not thin enough, you might get a bigger piece of sinew, in which case you're starting to kind of risk the sandwich fall apart, which no one wants. To me, you need to be able to put a sandwich down. If you want to get halfway through a sandwich and decide you need a break, you need to be able to put it down. And I hate it when you pick up a sandwich and it looks great, but then you know, if I put this down, I'm never picking this thing back up. No good. This is more than enough steak for all this bread. I'm going to slice it up. There's a big piece of fat at the end, which we will leave out. We'll get as many pieces as we can. There we go. Nice and medium rare steak. Yum. Okay, truth be told, I didn't cut that very well, and it's a bit thin at the end, but that's okay. That's life. Get the romesco on there. Now, I like to put romesco on one side, but reasonably thick. I'm not a huge fan of it like on 2 sides, but you absolutely can. I think one side nice and thick is the way to go. I kind of want a lot of that flavor in there, for 1. And 2, as you're going to see, gives us somewhere for our steak to kind of nest into. Oh, I wish it was a bit thicker. It's not, that's okay. So we'll line our meat next across the romesco. Make sure your steak is well rested. The steak is kind of ambient temperature. If it was still hot and it was still kind of, you know, its juices were still flowing, you'd end up with a soggy sandwich. That's no fun. No one wants a soggy sandwich. And then lay it out all the way down. I'm salivating. A couple of pieces here. We'll get them on. Just why not? Next, rocket. Rocket's got a really nice pepperiness to it, even though Caitlin doesn't really love it, but she's not here today, so and go on with it. And I really like this nice big rocket. It's kind of hard to get in the supermarkets these days. You only get the little small stuff, but I prefer this bigger stuff if you can find it. All the crispy onion rings now. Really good sweetness from the onion, and then the lovely crunch from the besan batter. Besan batter, I should say. I love onion rings. Lord, if you're watching, the next time you're in Australia, let me know. You come in and I'll make you the sandwich. On the top. All right. We're gonna do the YouTuber thing and take a photo of that. So you click on the video, then we'll have a taste. All right, so that's sandwiches are easily big enough for, I mean, 2 if you're really hungry, or 3. 3 pretty decent sized sangers there. Yum. Let's have a taste. Oh. Well, I made a mess. That is so good. Texturally on point, the steak's delicious. Where romesco makes everything come alive, the amount of acid in it. Yum. Thanks for watching, legends. I'm gonna go and enjoy my sandwich in peace. We'll see you next week with another recipe. Don't look at me like that.